I'm using the round end of a popsicle stick to make the scrub brush. I traced the size and shape of the popsicle stick, and now I'm making a small oval template to add the bristles to. I prefer adding the bristles to a template rather than directly to the wooden brush because I think it looks tidier and more realistic. I don't want the cereal box template to be seen, so I'm peeling off a couple layers of the chipboard. The cereal box piece will be covered in bristles. I'm sketching a small border around it, which will be the size of the wooden brush. I'm using this faux dead grass I got at my local dollhouse store to make the bristles. I listed some alternative materials in the description. To make it easier to apply the bristles, I'm gluing the template to a shiny colored pencil. I cut a straight line across the faux dead grass I'm using. I'm applying the glue to the cut end. I'm carefully applying the bristles a small chunk at a time, making sure they're sticking straight out. The white glue grabs a hold of the cereal box material a lot more quickly than it does if you're applying the bristles directly to a piece of wood. If you'd like to take a large clump of bristles and cover the entire template at once, you can give it a shot. I prefer applying small clumps because it gives me more control over where the bristles end up. Once I have most of the template covered, I come back in with smaller clumps to make sure the entire perimeter is covered so it's a nice, neat oval. The glue needs to completely dry before it can be handled. While the bristles are drying, I'm using my X-Acto to cut out the small brush. I want the brush to be more narrow than a full popsicle stick, so I'm starting by cutting a sliver on each side. To keep things simple, I used straight cuts to cut the oval. I cut at an angle on each side of the oval and then straight across the bottom. I sanded away the straight cuts and rounded all the edges. I'm staining the handle of the brush with some watered down brown paint. I'm using a little watered down black paint to add some age where I'll later be adding a faux leather handle. I finished the paint job with a dry brushing of beige. I'm using some brown paper bag to make the faux leather. To add texture, I'm crinkling it up into a tight ball before flattening it. I sealed both sides with Mod Podge. I'm finishing by scrubbing on a small amount of brown paint on both sides. The Mod Podge coating not only strengthens the paper, but it helps resist some of the brown paint so it gets caught in the texture I created. I'm attaching the handle so there's a small gap between the paper and the wood. I want it to look like a tiny 1/12 scale hand could fit in there. I recently bought these nail studs after watching Little Gretchen's Bags, Boxes, and Luggage series. I'm adding one on either side using some white glue to make it look like this is what's holding the leather straps onto the brush. The brass looks a bit too shiny, so I'm using some rust effects to tone it down. I let the bristles dry for a couple hours, so now it's time for a trim. I'm using a small pair of sharp scissors and making tiny snips so the bristles don't get pulled out. When I applied my bristles, I squeezed the bunches pretty tightly so they're nicely packed. If you apply looser bundles, you'll have less bristles. I removed the template from the pencil so I can trim around the edges to tidy it up some more. I'll be starting a new project soon, which will be a miniature boutique or ladies' bedroom. I think I'll use this same technique to make a fancy silver hairbrush. I'm using white glue to apply the template. Make sure you center the bristles the way you like before you press them down all the way.